Hey dreamers, welcome to this cozy sanctuary for deep sleep. I've been crafting original, slow-living and cozy fantasy sleep stories for over 25 years and sharing them on YouTube since 2007. In that time, I'm proud to say that my bedtime stories have been listened to over 30 million times, helping countless people to find peace from worry and anxiety and to drift comfortably asleep. However, recently, original human-crafted content has been getting lost in the noise of all the AI sleep content, and I've been finding that the AI content is often pushed above human-made content. So I'd like to ask you a favor. It really helps the channel if you engage with the content in some way, whether that's liking, commenting, hyping, or subscribing and sharing the content with others and choosing to watch more videos on the channel. So I'll do my best to help you sleep, and if you like this, it would mean the world to me if you can engage with it in some way. I love telling relaxing stories around a campfire. There's nothing better than getting cozy and drifting asleep to a gently crackling fire and the sounds of nature. So before you fall asleep, just take a moment to settle down by the campfire with me as I regale you with a calming tale. And before the tale, you can begin to calm your mind and body, allowing your eyes to close and allowing yourself to begin to relax. And as you begin to comfortably drift asleep, I don't know whether you'll drift asleep faster to the sound of my voice, or whether it'll be to the spaces between my words. And as you comfortably fall asleep, you can take a moment to get comfortable in your own way and imagine a healing light softly, slowly, and gently passing down from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, relaxing gently down through you as I count from 10 down to 1. And with each count, your mind can quieten and calm as the muscles soften and relax. And you can begin the process of drifting peacefully asleep. From 10, that healing light relaxing the muscles around the top of the head, around the back of your head, gently, carefully relaxing the muscles around the side of your head, around your temple, your forehead. And with each out-breath, that relaxation can deepen so peacefully, so comfortably, as it flows down around the eyes and around the ears. 9. That relaxation moving down around the jaw, relaxing that jaw, allowing the tongue to relax, the lips to relax, the nostrils to gently relax. With that relaxation moving carefully, slowly, as that healing light passes down the back of the neck, softening and calming those muscles. around the side of the neck, the front of the neck, down from the head, gradually moving that calming, healing light out across the shoulders, the shoulder blades, relaxing those muscles like a deep massage passing through your mind and body. 8. As that relaxation begins to move down those arms, and I don't know which arm the relaxation will move down fastest, whether it'll be the right arm or the left arm, but you can be aware of that healing light spreading gently down those arms, around the biceps, triceps, down into the forearms. 7. Moving all the way down to the wrists, the palms of the hands, down to the fingertips, and perhaps as that relaxation continues through those arms with each out-breath, the arms begin to feel heavier or lighter or develop some other sensation as relaxation sets in. And you know the process for sleep is that the body begins to relax, and while the body becomes physically relaxed, so the mind begins to drift and dream, initially to brief reveries before settling on the first dream of the night. 6. And that healing light can spread down from the shoulders and down around the chest, the upper back, softening and relaxing those muscles, gently calming the breathing, helping you drift deeper and deeper into the experience. 5. The healing light moving down towards the stomach, the lower back, the sides, relaxing those muscles as it goes, bringing a deep sense of peace and calm to your upper body, releasing any tension, perhaps occasionally finding yourself shifting just a little to get a little more comfortable. 4. With that relaxation spreading down around your buttocks, down into your upper parts of your legs. 3. Passing that relaxation down towards the lower part of your legs, perhaps those legs feeling heavier and heavier, maybe as the body becomes deeply relaxed and your focus drifts inside more on what's going on for you in your mind. You lose some awareness of the body as it becomes incredibly still. 2. The relaxation spreading down to your feet, calming softly, relaxing all the way down to the tips of your toes. And 1, as the final wave of relaxation pulses gently through you, from the top of your head, down through your body, all the way down to the tips of your toes, as your mind begins to drift and dream and wander to the gentle sounds of nature around you, the soft crackling of the campfire, drifting with those sounds into tonight's sleep story. A story about a woman sitting down under a tree in her English country garden. And she's sitting down under the tree, beginning to meditate and drift inside her mind. And in front of her she focuses on a rose that's just beginning to form. And she allows her attention to settle on that rose, to settle just on the bud of that rose. And she relaxes there under the tree, legs crossed, breathing in and breathing out, deeply breathing in and breathing out, breathing all the way from her stomach, breathing in comfort and relaxation, breathing that all the way in through her throat, into her chest, all the way deep down into her stomach, and breathing out any stress or tension as her attention focuses more on that rose. Breathing in and breathing out. And while she focuses on that rose, breathing in and breathing out in that relaxing way, so her attention narrows. And she's aware of the sounds of country birds in the background. She's aware of the colour of the sky, the look of the clouds as they pass overhead, the sun, the movement of grass, of leaves, of plants, the rustling of the leaves of the tree above her head, the way the rustling, moving leaves and branches make shards of light dance all around her as the sun shines through those leaves. Aware of the smells in the garden, the sight of insects, of bees flying into flowers, all following their routines as she gazes at that rose and just allows her attention to settle on that rose, and everything else begins to fade into the background, a little bit like she's getting tunnel vision, like all of her attention is on that rose. And as all of her attention falls onto that rose, so time begins to change. It's as if time for her stands still, while time around her ticks by, and everything around her appears like it's speeding up, like she is the anchor point, like she is the stationary, timeless part of the experience, observing time passing around her. She sees the stalk of the rose slowly extending. She sees that bud of the rose gradually growing, getting larger and larger. She sees night become day and day become night. The sun pass across the sky, The stars and the moon pass across the sky. And as she watches that rose, she notices the petals growing larger and larger before they begin to open up beautifully, symmetrically. And in her mind, she has a sense of what it would be like to touch a petal gently between her thumb and forefinger. That smooth and waxy feel of a rose petal. She allows her attention to fall so much on the rose, she focuses just on the smell given off by that single rose. As the particles from that rose reach her nose, she allows that to absorb her attention even deeper into this meditative state. And as she continues to drift and dream and meditate in this way, and watch the world go by out of her peripheral vision, while she just connects with that rose, so she begins to drift inside her mind. She begins to see some unusual writing scrolling down her vision. Like in her mind's eye, she's starting to see writing. And it's writing that looks like it's in some ancient language, just scrolling past her vision and surrounding her, almost like it's overlaying the reality that she's in. As she drifts even deeper into this meditation, and while she drifts even deeper into this meditation, so the writing becomes clearer, and she has an intuitive sense of understanding that writing, even though she consciously feels like she's never seen it before. And her focus leaves the rose and begins to transfer to the writing. As the garden begins to fade away, and she begins to just see the writing falling down around her, scrolling down around her, and she watches as that writing scrolls, and she feels a sense of peace, of calm, of connection to inner wisdom, to something greater than herself. Like somehow this writing is a sign of a connection to some universal wisdom, perhaps a universal library. And she watches as that writing continues to fall around her. And then after a while, the last of the writing falls down past her. And it's almost like when a curtain drops to the ground, that as the last of the writing passes her eyes, she's gazing out over an environment she's never seen before. She's gazing out over a desert. She can see pyramids in the distance, a striking blue sky and golden sand, feeling the warmth of the sun. And as she looks around, she sees behind her a Volkswagen camper van. And she goes to that van, slides open the side door and climbs in. And that van has a certain smell to it. certain authenticity, a certain feel. And she climbs through to the front seat, places her hands on the steering wheel, and is aware of the size of this steering wheel and how much larger it is to other steering wheels of other vehicles that she's been in. And she pulls the handle out and pushes it back in and starts the van, and can feel the van vibrating as the engine starts. Can smell the smell of the fumes from the engine starting. And she starts driving across the desert, following a dusty road that's barely a road at all. And she follows that, heading toward the pyramids. And she's unsure where she is, what she's searching for. All she knows is that she's trusting herself to find her way through this uncertainty, through this experience. She's aware that in reality, she's probably still sat under that tree, gazing at that rose, but that her mind has wandered and drifted and dreamed inside deeper and deeper, to some place so deep it makes this feel real to her, giving her some insight, some experience. And she can feel the breeze coming in the windows as she drives that VW van towards those pyramids. And she's surprised as she gets closer and closer to those pyramids, how large they really are. And as she arrives at the foot of the pyramids, they're pyramids unlike any she's seen before. They look like typical pyramids, but there's something different about them, about their shape, their size, and the entrance into the one she's in front of. And she takes a torch and she enters that pyramid and begins to explore. And as she walks to the pyramid and into the pyramid, so her footsteps change from the sound of soft sand beneath her feet to the sound of echoing stone as the light reflects around the walls of the chamber, around the walls of the corridor that she's entering. As she walks deeper and deeper into the pyramid, and she notices how the temperature changes, how inside the pyramid is cooler than it was outside the pyramid. And she continues to walk deeper and deeper into the chamber. And the deeper she walks, the more it seems to open up, to the point where her torch can't see across to the other side, or to either side, or above her. And she's aware of the size of the chamber by the way the echo reflects off the walls and seems to have a slight delay back to her ears with each step she takes. And when she eventually reaches the far side of this chamber, so she finds a solid stone wall, and she runs her hand along the wall and walks from one side to the other. And as she walks, so she discovers one area where there's a slight change in stone, and she decided there's probably a hidden door here. And she searches for a way to open the door. She feels around the walls. She shines the torch on the floor. She shines the torch around the walls, until eventually she notices another stone that's ever so slightly outset from all the stones in the wall. And she walks to that stone, pushes on that stone, pushing the stone in line with the others, and the rumbling sound of stone reveals a door opening up. She walks through that door, down a staircase, and finds herself faced with a view she never thought she would see in the middle of a desert. A vast forest, the sound of running water, of a waterfall, of a fast-flowing stream or river, and the sight of a distant lake. And down here, under this pyramid, somehow suddenly she's faced with a world that's lit up as if it's daylight. And she walks down into that forest, from stone to earth, noticing the smells of the forest, the sounds of the forest, walking through that forest. And she finds her way to the river, walks along that river, following it down towards the lake. And while she walks along towards the lake, she can smell the smell of the water. She can notice what look like fish swimming in the water. She can hear sounds of birds. Everything sounds familiar, but not like anything she's heard before. And she follows that river all the way to the lake. And as she's approaching the lake, so she sees in the distance the shadow of somebody sat on a post with their back to her, gazing out over that lake. And she's unsure who it could be, how long they've sat there, and how they could be there when she's only just arrived here. And she walks all the way to them. And as she approaches, she feels that they're a friendly presence, that they contain wisdom, knowledge. And she walks over to them, and they don't turn to look at her. They just carry on gazing the way they are. And she reaches them, walks round in front of them, looks at them, and asks who they are and where we are. And they say you're not where you think you are. You're somewhere different. You're here, not there. And she's a little confused by this and wonders what it all means. And they say, you are here, not there. You're not where you think you are. You're here. And they hold out a hand, turning their palm up. They let their gaze drop to their hand. And she feels this urge to reach out, to place her hand in their hand. And very slowly she reaches out, and very slowly she rests her hand on their hand. And as she does, as soon as their hands connect, so their minds connect also. And it's like she's suddenly out in space, zooming out from that place, looking down on a world with Earth-like features. And she continues zooming out further into space, and she can see a star like the sun of this world. She can see other planets as she zooms further back out into space. And at high speed she continues to zoom away from that planet, seeing the star, the planets, moving far enough away to see the neighborhood of stars that star's in, zooming even further away and seeing a cluster of stars and zooming further away and further away until the star she's zooming away from, that she's still looking at, still has all her focus on, is just a pinprick in the sky, surrounded by millions of other pinpricks of light in the sky. Until she begins to enter Earth's atmosphere and finds herself arriving on Earth at night time, gazing up into the night sky, still gazing at that star and recognizing it as one of the stars in the Seven Sisters. And recognizing that she's landed at night time at the foot of the pyramid that she entered. And recognizing that all these other pyramids in this little area probably resembled that constellation in the sky. And just as she had that realization, so she felt herself drawn back through space and time, back towards that place, back towards that planet, back to that forest, back to that person. And suddenly, with a slight in-breath, she was aware of that person again as she raised her hand off of their hand, and aware she was back where she was. and realised she's here, not there, and understood what they meant, and realised that somehow the ancients had created this portal that was there, that can transport people here to where this timeless being is, who offers wisdom, insight. And they talk for a while as she gazes into his eyes, and they talk for a while as she learns insights, wisdom, knowledge. And they tell her that she can row out into the lake, and they tell her that there's a box to be found in the lake, a box that they've been guarding all this time, just waiting for someone to discover this place. And as soon as she finds that box, they'll be free to leave here. And they've been waiting year after year. This timeless being, watching over this box, waiting for the moment when someone arrives to get this box. And she was told you can only find the box with relaxation and focus. She was told she needed to lie back in the water. She needed to listen. And notice the way the sound travels underwater to pinpoint the location of the box. That you need to have your ears underwater long enough to do that. And so you can't just dive in and keep diving down hunting. You need patience and relaxation. So she entered the water, lay on her back, rested her head back in that warm water, with her ears just underwater, noticing how the sounds changed from her ears outside the water to her ears underwater, and she could hear the sound of the waterfall up the river, that subtle rumbling sound. She could hear the sounds of some bubbles, some sounds from within her ears. She could hear some sounds of some of the creatures in the lake. She could hear her heart gently beating rhythmically as she rested there. And while she rested there, so she began to listen to her heartbeat, listen to the way her heartbeat travelled from her body and bounced around the lake, the really subtle reflection of the sound of her heartbeat underwater as she floated across the lake, and almost like using her heartbeat and her ears as a sonar machine. She lay very still, just floating gently across the lake with a heartbeat relaxed, strong, and rhythmically beating, using her meditative abilities to focus on such a subtle sound, to begin to notice the difference in the way the sound arrives at the left and the right ears, just resting motionless and floating, letting the water move her rather than her moving through the water. As she noticed a subtle anomaly in the reflection of the sound to her ears, and knew she'd floated above the box. And she turned herself over, put her head under the water, and looked down towards the bottom. And she couldn't quite see whether the box was down there. She knew that she'd have to hold her breath a while and relax for this dive. And so she took a few deep breaths, then held her breath and relaxed deeply as she dived down, and time appeared to be going so slow as she dived down deeper and deeper, all the way to the bottom. As a box began to come into view, she could hear bubbles at her ears. She could feel the water around her, hear sounds underwater, notice the way light weaves and waves and moves. As she reached the box, opened the box, and found what looked like a large gold coin in the box. And she took the coin, swam back to the surface, felt that water run from her face as she broke through the surface, swam back to the shore, and could see that wise being smiling at her and telling her she'd found what she was looking for, even though she didn't know that's what she was looking for. And that it isn't about that gold coin. It's about the discovery of the gold coin, about how she discovered it. And the gold coin is a representation that will remind her of that. And as they said that, they began to turn almost like to smoke or fog, just fading away to nothing. As she then found her way back out of this forest, all the way back to that pyramid and through the pyramid, and in her own time found her way back to the camper van and drove back in the camper van to where she'd found that van. And then exited the van, taking the coin with her, and sat down and began meditating, looking over towards those pyramids. And every time her eyes blinked so, she saw glimpses of the country garden. And after a while she found herself just in the country garden, gazing at that rose, that fully formed rose, as it's visited by a bee, which then flies away And she looks down into her lap and sees that coin resting in her upturned hands. And she holds the coin, stands up. She's aware she's learned a deep lesson. And just as she does so, the sun has long set, and she goes inside, and that night settles down and drifts comfortably, relaxed, asleep.